In this lesson, we will cover adding wires to circuits and adjusting wire parameters. In this project, some circuits have been created and we can now add wire to those circuits. This can be done automatically or manually, and we'll take a look at both options. On the Systems ribbon, in the electrical panel, there's a wire tool. You can expand this split button and see that there are three wire tools: arc wire, spline wire, and chamfered wire. I'll select arc wire, and then I'll zoom into one of these exam rooms, and I will click the receptacle and then a midpoint between these two receptacles and then this other one, and I can place a wire between those two receptacles. And then I'll click modify to end the command. That's how you can manually create a wire, simply just by clicking points, or you can automatically place wires. And we can do that by selecting, or actually we'll hover over a component that is on a circuit, press Tab to highlight the circuit, and then click to select it. When you do, you can see two icons in the drawing area, one for arc wire and one for chamfered wire. And there are actually two tools in the contextual ribbon that match these icons. You can click either arc wire or chamfered wire. So I'll select arc wire, and when I do, arc wire is placed between all the components on the circuit. And so you can see that's a much quicker way of placing wires. And afterwards, whether you manually create it or automatically create it, you can select those wires and adjust them as needed. And so once again, two ways to to create wire: either manually do it or automatically create those wires. A couple notes about wires. So wires is a model category, and I can see that if I go to the visibility graphic overrides dialog, I can see wires, but it behaves like a view specific element. So these will not appear in other floor plan views, and we can see that if we duplicate this view, we can take a look to see those wires are not here, whereas things like conduit and cable tray would be. So just be aware of that when working with wires. Also, when you select a wire, you can adjust certain parameters, such as the tick marks. You can even adjust the type, whether it is an arc wire or a chamfered wire. You can switch between those if needed. But in this case, really, to be honest, if you want to switch from arc to chamfered, you should just delete the wires and then automatically create them again as chamfered wires. You can control the number of hot, neutral, and ground conductors, and then so those are the instance properties available. You'll notice that wire size, that cannot be adjusted, and so that is calculated by Revit. You can also create different wire types as needed, and then if you click edit type, you can see the type properties, and the type properties, that's where you can control things like the material and the temperature rating, insulation, and the other parameters you see here. I'll click OK to close this dialog. And one thing that is troubling to some Revit users is that they cannot adjust the wire size. As in this case, as we just saw, the wire size parameter is grayed out and cannot be adjusted. And so one of the ways that you can adjust the wire size is by adjusting the circuit path, and we can take a look at that. If I select one of these light fixtures that are on the circuit, I'll switch to the electrical circuits contextual ribbon, and you can see that there's an edit path tool, and I'll click edit path. And when I do, I can see the path from the farthest device on the circuit to the panel, and in the contextual ribbon I can see the length of this circuit path, and then I can adjust the path mode and then the path offset. So before I do that, let me scroll down a bit in the properties palette so that we can see the voltage drop, which plays a big part in Revit's calculating of the wire sizes, and then you can also see the wire sizes for this circuit. And so if I change from farthest device to all devices, you can see the voltage drop changes. In this case, the wire size does not change. But if I change it back to farthest device, you can see the voltage drop change again. And this time I'll adjust the path offset, and the voltage drop changes, but the wire sizes don't. But just so we can kind of see that, if I select the path, and so in addition to modifying those parameters, you can actually move the path lines as well. And if I drag this, we'll just drag it all the way down for sake of example, you can see that those wire sizes update accordingly. And so obviously the length here is quite a bit longer, and so that's why those wire sizes are adjusting. And as I move it back, you can see that those wire sizes will change accordingly, because as Revit is calculating the length and the voltage drop, those are all being taken into account to calculate those wire sizes. So just to summarize, if you want to adjust the wire sizes, it's not something you can do by adjusting a parameter, but you can edit the circuit path in order to adjust that. I'll click Finish Editing Path. So just to summarize, you can create wires manually using one of the wire tools, or you can create them automatically by hovering over an item on a circuit tab, select, and then clicking either arc wire or chamfered wire.